Welcome to Anime Recaps. In this video, we will explain Infinite Stratos. This anime tells a story of a 15-year-old teenager who is the only man who can control the exoskeleton weapon, Infinite Stratos. So, he was forced to enter the Stratos Academy full of girls to become an IS pilot. The academy constantly received threats from unregistered IS during the course, so he and his female friends at the Stratos Academy did their best to survive. Will he survive the threat and fight back using the true power of Infinite Stratos? Let's find out in Infinite Stratos. Infinite Stratos begins by showing the modern Japanese exoskeleton weapon technology called Infinite Stratos, or what we will often refer to as IS. The technology was specifically designed to only be operated by women, and this technology was deliberately created to help the military power of the Japanese government. However, because the power possessed by this IS weapon is too large, the Japanese government agreed with international countries that this IS technology would never be used for military purposes. The scene then showing a 15-year-old boy named Ichika Orimura. Ichika is the only man who can control the Infinite Stratos weapon. Therefore, he is forced to enter the Infinite Stratos Academy to graduate as a pilot of Infinite Stratos. All students in the Infinite Stratos Academy are girls, so Ichika is the only male student in the academy. That day, Ichika had his first day as a student at the Infinite Stratos Academy. He looks nervous in front of all the other students because the only male student at the school is him. A female teacher named Yamada Meyer entered the class asking all students to introduce themselves in front of the class. Ichika, who felt nervous, couldn't introduce himself properly and instead acted strangely. Suddenly a female teacher named Shifuyu Orimura, his sister, came into the class and immediately hit him because he couldn't do his introduction well. Orimura-sensei will be the homeroom teacher of Ichika's class for the following year. Ichika, who saw Orimura-sensei that day, was very surprised because his older sister had disappeared for a long time and had not contacted him since she stopped being an IS pilot. While the other students looked very impressed with Orimura-sensei because she used to be a legend in controlling Infinite Stratos. A female student came over to Ichika during break time and greeted him. That girl is Shinonono Hoki, who is Ichika's childhood friend. She invited him to go to the school roof to talk to each other. Ichika seemed happy to reminisce about his childhood memories with Hoki in that conversation, while she actually felt embarrassed by the conversation. When Yamada-sensei's class continued, Ichika seemed to have a hard time understanding the material taught by Yamada-sensei because the manual that should be read before entering school had been discarded by him. Hearing that, Orimura-sensei immediately scolded Ichika and asked him to memorize the entire contents of the manual within 1 week. After class ended, a female student named Cecilia Alcott approached Ichika and introduced herself as the only representative from the UK who was allowed to control IS. She said that she was the only student who scored the highest on the academy's entrance exam. Seeing Ichika's reaction, which looked indifferent and curt, Cecilia claimed that she was the only student who managed to beat the coach in the entrance exam. Hearing that, Ichika revealed that he also managed to beat the coach in the entrance exam. Cecilia looked surprised to hear Ichika's answer because she was told by the academy examiner that she was the only student who managed to beat the coach. When school ended, Ichika walked back to the academy dormitory and went to the room provided by the school. When Ichika entered the room, he was surprised by a girl who came out of the bathroom. It turns out that the girl who will be Ichika's roommate in the academy dorm is Shinonono Hoki. After finishing dressing, Hoki explained the room rules that they must obey while being roommates. The following day, Orimura-sensei asked all the students in the class to choose a class president who would be the representative in the inter-class IS tournament. Most students decided to choose Ichika as class president, but Cecilia objected to it. She then challenges him to a one-on-one IS battle duel to determine who will be the representative in the inter-class IS tournament later. Hearing that, Orimura-sensei agreed and said that Ichika would later be given a special IS, considering that currently, he still doesn't have an IS. Special IS is an IS only owned by elite people who can control it, because the number of special IS in this world is very limited, which is only 467 units. The person who had designed the special IS weapon was an engineer named Shinonono Tanabe, Hoki's older sister. During lunchtime, Ichika invites Hoki to have lunch together. Although she initially refused, he persuaded her to go with him with a bit of coercion. After that, Ichika asked Hoki for help teaching him to use IS. She again refused Ichika's request. Finally, a senior came to Ichika and said she could help him learn to use IS. Hearing that, Hoki changed her mind and immediately agreed to teach Ichika. Hoki taught Ichika after school by practicing kendo for a whole week because Ichika's IS had not yet been sent by the academy. When the day of the duel arrives, Ichika looks annoyed at Hoki because she never taught him how to use IS at all. Before the duel begins, Ichika's IS named Byakushiki finally arrives in the last seconds. After activating the IS, Ichika immediately went to the battlefield using the IS. Meanwhile, Cecilia is ready with her special long-range IS called Blue Steer. Within seconds, she immediately attacked Ichika with a shot from Blue Steer until he was thrown backward. Fortunately, Ichika managed to dodge Cecilia's next attack. After that, he took out his sword and activated Byakushiki's quick move. Although Byakushiki's energy will quickly drain in this mode, he finally manages to get close to Cecilia with his lightning moves. When he was about to attack her, he was suddenly surprised by the Blue Steer's secret weapon attack. Fortunately, Ichika was again able to survive the attack and transformed Byakushiki up to level 2. He drew closer to Cecilia and prepared to counterattack. Unfortunately, when Ichika was about to swing his sword, Byakushiki's energy was drained, and he was declared defeated. After school, Ichika walked with Hoki to the academy dormitory. Hoki then told him that she would teach him to practice using IS. On the other hand, Cecilia, who had managed to win the IS battle duel with Ichika, suddenly had doubts about her own abilities and was secretly amazed by Ichika's fighting skills. The following day, Orimura and Yamada-sensei gathered the students into the field to practice using IS. Orimura-sensei then asked Cecilia and Ichika to explain how to fly properly in front of the whole class. Cecilia offers Ichika to practice IS together after school as they fly through the air. She is starting to accept him and knows Ichika's great potential. When Orimura-sensei asked Cecilia and Ichika to come back down, Ichika suddenly lost control and descended at high speed. As a result, he didn't land properly and crashed into the ground. Fortunately, Ichika was not injured at all due to the protection of his IS shield. In class, Cecilia suddenly announced to all her classmates that she would hand over the position of class president to Ichika. The whole class respected the decision and celebrated their new class president. During recess, Ichika's classmate received news that the person who would be the second class representative in the IS battle was a transfer student from China named Huang Lingyan. She is an elite student who has a private special IS. Shortly after, Lingyan came to the front of the class and directly challenged Ichika. She seems to have known Ichika for a long time and is very familiar with him. Orimura-sensei, who saw Lingyan still wandering in the school corridor, immediately hit her and asked her to return to her class. It turns out that Lingyan is Ichika's childhood friend who moved to China a few years ago. Even though Hoki and Lingyan were childhood friends of Ichika, they didn't know each other because they had never met. After school, Ichika started doing exercises with Hoki and Cecilia. As a result of intense training, he became exhausted and decided to end the day's training and rest. Lingyan, who coincidentally met Ichika in the break room, asked his permission so she could visit Ichika's dorm room. After knowing that Hoki shared a room with Ichika, Lingyan asked Hoki to switch rooms with her. However, Hoki immediately rejected Lingyan's offer. Seeing Lingyan, who always acts casually, Hoki became annoyed and immediately attacked her with her wooden katana. Fortunately, Lingyan managed to fend off Hoki's attack with her hand, which suddenly turned into IS. Ichika looks surprised to see Lingyan's ability to turn her hands into IS. Lingyan, who really wants to be in the same room with Ichika, challenges him that whoever can win the IS match between classes can make one wish to the loser. Ichika then accepts the challenge. The day of the IS battle between classes finally arrived. In the first round of battle, Ichika faced and fought Lingyan, who used a personal IS named Shenlong. Like Ichika's IS, Shenlong is an IS designed for close combat. When the match started, Lingyan immediately launched attacks on Ichika continuously so that he did not have time to counterattack. It turns out that Shenlong has a long-range weapon in a cannon form. Lingyan, who saw Ichika cornered, immediately fired cannon from her IS that made him fall to the ground, and Ichika's IS energy drained faster. Realizing that Lingyan is far superior to him, Ichika plans to use Ignition Boost's ultimate move taught by his older sister. That attack can be a surprise attack that makes Ichika able to defeat Lingyan, but the attack can only be made once. Suddenly, a foreign IS entered the battlefield and opened fire in the middle of the field during the fight. It made all the students panic, and the IS battle had to be stopped by Orimura-sensei. She then ordered Ichika and Lingyan to return to the building so that Orimura-sensei could fight the unknown IS to buy time so that all the students could leave the arena. Unfortunately, the foreign IS has hijacked the system and locked the entire arena door so that all students can't get out. Ichika decides to stay on the battlefield and fight the foreign IS with Lingyan. All attacks carried out by Ichika were repelled by the foreign IS, so Ichika's IS began to lose energy and could only make one more attack. After observing the movements of the foreign IS, Ichika finally learns that the IS does not have a pilot and seems to be remotely controlled. He then plans to use Yukihira 2's sword move to defeat the IS. Lingyan then fired an attack toward Ichika's back to activate the move. After a fairly fierce battle, Ichika and Lingyan finally defeated the foreign IS with their very epic combined strength. When the foreign IS almost fell, the IS suddenly made its final attack by shooting at Ichika until he fainted. Ichika woke up from his stupor a few days later and saw Lingyan waiting beside him. After that, he suddenly asked her out on a date. On the other hand, the foreign IS that previously attacked the academy is currently being researched by Yamada-sensei. It turns out that the foreign IS is an IS that is still not registered in the IS list that has been launched by the Japanese government. The next day, Yamada-sensei came to Ichika and Hoki's dorm room to inform them that from that day on, Ichika would live alone in that room, and Hoki would be transferred to another room. Hearing that, Hoki looked annoyed, but she had no other choice. After that, she asked Ichika to date her if she managed to beat him in this month's IS battle. The next day, a boy named Charles Dunwa joins Ichika's class. All the students in the class looked amazed by Charles's charisma. After that, Orimura-sensei asked all students to change clothes because they would start doing joint training with Class 2. Ichika then invited Charles to go to the locker room to change clothes and avoid other female students. But when Ichika changed his clothes, Charles looked embarrassed and immediately looked away. During the training, Yamada-sensei told Ichika and Lingyan to fight her simultaneously. Unfortunately, in a short time, Yamada-sensei had managed to defeat them easily because of her extraordinary fighting ability. During lunchtime, Ichika invites Hoki to eat together. However, she did not expect Lingyan, Cecilia, and Charles to eat together. It seemed Hoki wished she could spend more time alone with Ichika. On the next day, Ichika's class again accepts new students. This new student is a mysterious girl from Germany named Laura Bodwig. It turns out that Laura was one of Orimura-sensei's former students when she was an IS pilot in Germany. After school, Charles asks Ichika to practice a one-on-one IS combat duel. Unfortunately, Charles's IS was a ranged attack, so Ichika couldn't dodge the attack and lost the fight. Shortly after, Laura came to the training ground and asked Ichika to fight, but he refused because he had no reason to fight her. Hearing that, she became annoyed and immediately attacked him. Fortunately, Charles could withstand the shot, and a sensei stopped the feud. While returning to the dormitory, Ichika accidentally sees Charles's naked body in the bathroom. He looks shocked and stunned because it turns out that Charles is actually a girl. After bathing, Charles then explained the reason for hiding her true identity. It turns out that she is the illegitimate child of the Dunwa family, who owns the third largest IS production company in the world. After Charles' mother died, Charles was picked up by her father's men and asked to help research the creation of the third-generation IS. Because the research failed, she was asked to come to the IS Academy to collect data from Ichika. That's why she disguised herself as a male student to approach Ichika more easily. Hearing Charles's sad life story, Ichika becomes sympathetic to her and asks her to always rely on him if one day she needs help. The next day, while Cecilia and Lingyan were training to fight IS together, Laura suddenly interfered with their training and immediately attacked them. Laura tried to provoke Cecilia and Lingyan to get them to fight with her. Laura managed to seriously injure them with her third-generation IS in that fight. Luckily, Ichika and Charles managed to save them and took them to the hospital for treatment. A few days later, Ichika and his friends received news that the IS competition tournament would be held in pairs between classes this semester. Many female students at the academy invite Ichika to be their partner, but he refused all the invitations because he planned to team up with Charles. Other students who still haven't found a partner will be randomly merged with other students. Hoki was forced to partner with Laura to fight Ichika and Charles this time. When the battle started, Ichika immediately fought Laura with a melee attack, but the attack was easily blocked by her. When Charles was about to join in attacking Laura, Hoki suddenly shot fast and immediately stopped Charles' attack. Ichika and Charles then decided to defeat Hoki first, and then they would attack Laura together. After Charles managed to defeat Hoki, Ichika and Charles could now focus on attacking Laura. At first, Laura managed to dodge every attack made by Charles and Ichika. They decided to attack her at the same time. This strategy succeeded in getting Ichika closer to Laura, but when he was about to attack her with his sword, Ichika's IS energy suddenly ran out. Laura used this condition to counterattack. Fortunately, Charles managed to thwart Laura's attack with Ignition Boost. Because of the epic cooperation and combined forces of Charles and Ichika's IS, they finally managed to corner Laura. However, Laura suddenly turned into a Yukihira, similar to Orimura-sensei's powers. Fortunately, after Ichika managed to get additional energy from Charles, he beat Laura until she finally fainted. When Laura woke up from her stupor, she found Orimura-sensei beside her. The following day, Yamada-sensei informed Charles and Ichika that the men's hot spring bath had been completed. Ichika and Charles decide to visit the bathhouse. In the middle of their conversation, Charles asked Ichika to call her by the name Charlotte. As it turned out, she did plan to reveal her true identity to the academy. So the next morning, Yamada-sensei reintroduced Charles with the name Charlotte. One day, Hoki contacted her sister to make her a special IS. Apparently, from the start, Hoki's sister had already prepared a special IS for Hoki, named Akatsubaki. Meanwhile, Ichika, who was traveling with Charlotte, decided to buy a swimsuit together because the academy would be having a vacation to the beach at the end of the semester. After finding a suitable swimsuit, Charlotte takes Ichika to the changing room to show him her swimsuit. Unfortunately, the incident was discovered by Yamada and Orimura-sensei. As a result, Ichika and Charlotte were lectured by Yamada-sensei. At the end of the semester, the holiday activities together finally arrived. Ichika and his friends seemed to be enjoying the holiday happily. In the afternoon, Orimura-sensei found Hoki daydreaming, thinking about her sister's condition because recently she had not heard the news from her sister. On the next morning, Cecilia, Charlotte, Lingyan, Hoki, and Laura were quietly eavesdropping on Orimura-sensei and Ichika's room in front of the door. Suddenly the door collapsed, and their actions were noticed by Orimura-sensei. She then told them to take Ichika from her if they could. During the day, Ichika looked curious about the strange object that Hoki had been staring at since earlier. Suddenly, when he pulled the object, a carrot-shaped capsule appeared that contained Hoki's sister inside. It turned out that Tanabe had come to that place on purpose to give her sister a special IS. The IS designed by Tanabe this time is a 4th-generation IS which capabilities far exceed the average 3rd-generation IS. The IS has been equipped with more weapons than the previous generation. A few moments later, Yamada-sensei gave the news that the United States state-owned IS named Gospel, which had no pilot, was currently out of control in the beach area where they were on vacation. Orimura-sensei ordered Ichika, who had the strongest IS, and Hoki, who had the fastest IS, to solve the problem. After preparing, Hoki immediately set off with Ichika at high speed to find Gospel. Shortly after, they managed to find Gospel and immediately attacked it. Despite carrying out various attacks in succession, Gospel still hadn't been defeated. When Gospel was about to attack Hoki, Ichika managed to save her and instead sacrificed himself. As a result, the mission failed this time, and Ichika fell into a coma due to severe injuries. Hoki feels very sorry for him and intends to stop controlling IS. However, Hoki's friends try to encourage Hoki and promise to help her defeat Gospel. After Hoki and the others managed to track down Gospel's whereabouts, they immediately headed to that location to defeat it. The fierce battle between Gospel and the elite students of the academy finally began. Gospel again managed to dodge every attack and make Hoki fling and fall towards the beach. When Hoki came to her senses, she saw Ichika was already prepared with his IS and started cheering on her. She felt happy and relieved that he had recovered. Now Ichika and his other friends unite to defeat Gospel. In that battle, Ichika's IS repeatedly ran out of energy. Luckily, Hoki's IS has the technology to recharge IS energy, so Hoki can help Ichika survive and recover his energy. After a very fierce battle, Ichika and his friends finally defeated Gospel. After that, Ichika's days were constantly filled with girls trying to get Ichika's love. From Hoki, who tried to kiss Ichika on the beach, to Charlotte and Cecilia, who visited Ichika's house to eat together. On the same day, Laura, Hoki, and Lingyan visited Ichika's house, so they decided to play together. The girls help Ichika shop at the supermarket and cook at Ichika's house the next day. Ichika's relationship with the girls is getting closer, and they are having a great time together. The scene changes to the moment where Hoki visits her aunt's house and helps her aunt prepare the show for the festival. Ichika comes to Hoki's aunt's house during the fireworks festival to meet Hoki and invites her to enjoy the festival together. When Hoki danced in the middle of the festival, Ichika looked mesmerized by Hoki's grace and beauty. After the festival performance ended, they went to the hills to see the city view at night and watch the fireworks together. The moral that can be learned from this anime is the true meaning of friendship, and that the uniqueness of each individual will make them complement each other and become stronger to face all the problems that will come.